For over 60 years, Nigeria has operated as an independent nation. During this time, a lot has been made about the country's failures, challenges, and problems, but not enough energy is expended on analyzing the country's victories, resilience, potential, and the unique strategic positioning that has made Nigeria impossible to ignore. It takes vision to realize that the country has all it needs as far as talent, workforce, and raw materials to become an economic juggernaut, and the missing ingredient is a passionate investment in research and development. This is where the Tertiary Education Trust Fund comes in. TETFund is implementing a paradigm shift that is institutionalizing research and development in Nigeria using the triple helix model and making Nigeria great again through sustainable development across all major economic sectors. To amplify the paradigm shift geared towards economic advancement, global competitiveness, and the attainment of knowledge economy in the earliest possible time for Nigeria, TETFund has a standing committee on R&D comprising 165 Nigerian experts divided into 13 thematic groups based on the priority activity sectors of the economy to stimulate catalytic responses to our national challenges.
In a knowledge economy in the 21st century, check it out there. Japan, very small country if you want to by size and even population. But tell me, until a few years ago, Japan was number 2 largest economy in the world. And what was it? What has remained the secret? South Korea, you can go on and on. China today, China surging forward in the terms of size of GDP and competitiveness of their economy and technology. It is all because of massive investment on R&D. We have all it takes if we invest appropriately. That is precisely why now we've inaugurated the R&D Standing Committee and they have gone far. The beauty about the Standing Committee is that for the first time we saw partnership, very strong partnership between the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Science and Tech. And that is good for Nigeria. But more importantly, the key expected outcome from the R&D Standing Committee, RDSC as we call it, is the establishment of National R&D Foundation for Nigeria.
What you see in many countries is a research foundation. But in this context, you are saying research and development foundation. There is a difference between what you used to see in other climes and what we are trying to do. Why? Because we know for long this particular country has been at the laggard point and actually trailing and crawling behind many other nations of its own competencies and capacity when it comes to population. So in this context, we need to do what we call simultaneous equation, doing research and at the same time ensuring that that research is giving us development immediately. So what really happened that day was that immediately after the inauguration, there was we identified the activity sector of the economy that are priority.
TETFund is using a layered approach to make R&D an essential tool in Nigeria's economic, industrial, and technological advancement. There is a nexus between the RDSC and TETFund's Centers of Excellence, the first batch of which were inaugurated and commissioned for operation in the latter part of the year 2020.
The centers are there to advance knowledge. They are there to research into anything with regards to that area of specialization. They are there to provide information, new research findings. They are there to come up with novel ideas. R&D Foundation is there to provide funding for uptake of meaningful research into innovation and into patenting into commercialization.
The main aim of gathering some of Nigerian best brains at home and in diaspora to drive...
The vision of TETFund's Executive Secretary, Professor Suleiman Elias Bogoro, within the scope of the paradigm shift, includes a strategic focus to facilitate the institutionalization of R&D in Nigeria in all spheres of national life, to improve global ranking of Nigeria's tertiary institutions, to promote global competitiveness of Nigerian products and services through value addition, and capacity strengthening for skills in development and management of knowledge economy. The main goal of the RDSC is the establishment of the National Research and Development Foundation in Nigeria in order to provide the platform for the smooth operation of the triple helix model in Nigeria and the actualization of the knowledge economy.
The total number of the RDSC members is 165 expertise, cutting across the tripod of the triple helix that we've been talking about. We have pillars from the government, we have from the private sector, industry and business, and we have from the academia. There's no way we want to talk about research without going on field. So that was what led to a 3 weeks of 39 teams visiting about 390 institutions across the country, cutting across the academia, government institution in terms of regulation, and the industry. This is happening for the first time. People coming from government to come and visit industry and talk about research advocacy. This is just happening for the first time. And all of them were overwhelming to say, yeah, this is what we've been looking for. Nobody has been speaking to us. We need to move on. And I can tell you, we are looking ultimately at establishing the National R&D Foundation. This R&D Foundation will become a platform for these three tripods to be meeting.
For national development, you must have very strong research and development, not only just research and development, but foundation to be able to sustain information to back up the research priorities. People have been discussing about research and development, this is the first time that that kind of thing has happened. And not only happening, but having national membership of really respected professionals and industrialists coming together. In this case, it's not just academia sitting by himself discussing. No. This time, you have industrialists is member of this committee. Government is member of this. And then academic, very serious, very highly recognized academicians are part of this. Many renowned professors distinguished in their areas.
If we have 5.0
Each thematic group was given a mandate to scope its work and propose the suitable R&D activities the country should prioritize in the next 5 years. The following are the thematic group mandates.
The agriculture of flora and fauna, the plants and the animals. And in each of them there are species and breed varieties for livestock. Is a different species, of course, as it were, and that leads to the involvement of research that produces what you call the differences between the breeds for livestock, as it were, and there are commodity sub-aggregations. For instance, you talk about beef production, you talk about dairy, and then we talk about the products, animal products, even from a dairy industry. The same thing with the beef industry. As it were. And of course, poultry, that's another major. We can go on and on. We talk about fisheries. So each of these, it requires injection of science, technology, and innovation.
This group has a mandate to aggregate research and innovations in agriculture for the enhancement of value addition through science, technology, and innovation towards improvement of food and nutrition for health, poverty reduction, improved national resource management, and the attainment of global competitiveness in food exports.
It's not that we don't have the indigenous knowledge of transforming these products, but the fact is that we must realize that we are also competing globally, and as long as we depend on food importation. I think prior to COVID, this country must be spending close to $10 billion annually importing foods. And many of these things, many of these foods we can produce locally. But if we produce them, the products may even turn out to be more expensive than the imported products, again because of the issue of economies of scale. So the real thing to do is to encourage this type of intervention that TETFund is doing, so that gradually we begin really to develop the local capacity to produce, in my own area, these food products. The food multinationals should be encouraged to work with the universities so that the products that are developed by the universities are taken up by the food multinationals and promoted. Because at times, it's just really the marketing that makes the difference.
What we think that will actually improve the food security is investigations in terms of improving, not only the land itself, the soil, fertility, and so on and so forth, but also integrating technology to ensure that at least the farmers benefit from the contemporary technology. In fact, being an IT professional, one of the things that we've integrated, or we're going to integrate as far as the Food Security Center, is obviously a multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary center, but we are going to also look at contemporary technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning. How can we deploy artificial intelligence in order to improve, productivity of whatever products that we want to focus on?
We have experts in the universities. We have industries. Bring them together, task them with this challenge. You can even empower universities, empower research groups in the universities, empower talented individuals, even if it's as a way of talent hunting competition. Assign them to do this. The output, the results now can translate into solving that problem. And I think that's the way. That's why R&D is key.
Through research, the Defense Group is looking at strategic ways to source intelligence and use advanced technology to ensure the effective defense of our national territorial integrity and security.
Until we realize the benefits of R&D, we'll continue to procure equipment. And let me tell you, one other disadvantage of depending on these equipments produced from outside the country is even when you have your money, sometimes they are not willing to sell to you. And even when they are willing to sell to you, sometimes they determine when you get it. In other words, if you are supposed to confront a certain security challenge within 1 month or thereabouts, and you desire to get the equipment and you have paid all that is necessary to get the equipment deployed to deliver to you, and they decide to deliver it to you after 3 months, is of no use. The best operational plan is of no use after the operation has commenced. So that equipment will be of no use to you because you would have passed that situation, and so it cannot address it. So, but when you develop yourself, when you have your product, one, maintainability, availability, the spares are readily available. It is not a case where you will grant your equipment and grant your operation because you are awaiting spares.
If there is no security, tell me what else we can do in this country. At the time of this challenge, and imagine for a moment that all countries say, look, we are not going to sell any form of arms. We have the best of scientists and technologists in Nigeria operating order. Let's get them back, and what we need to do is let's improve the environment for them to operate. Improve the environment, the research environment, and other welfare aspects for these guys.
We have always talked of collaboration among the three agencies, as it were, the academia, the industry, and of course, government. Government is supposed to provide the platform for bringing industry and academia together. And what we are doing here for us is a practical demonstration of that process. And we are now trying to concretize what we have always talked about for a long time.
Using lessons and knowledge from the global centers of excellence and institutions of repute, the education group is designing ways to improve the quality of teaching and learning, to develop qualitative and quantitative curricula, to ensure effective partnership between tertiary institutions and industry, as well as to develop educational resource bank for national development.
TETFund in the past has contributed to human capacity building. They sponsored our members and other personnel in the tertiary institution framework within the tertiary institution setup for higher degrees, desk work for research and other things. Now we are moving to a point that even TETFund can begin to narrow down on areas of demand. You know, as NRF is taking off, we can also be talking of even the project that we sponsor. You are going to study in UK, for instance. What is being done in UK that you can bring back to Nigeria to address specific problems? I'll give you an example. Two of my former students who studied in South Africa, the South African universities insisted that they must relate the data they are collecting in Nigeria to what they are doing in South Africa. So we can also do the same thing. The information you have about the foreign countries where you are studying, how will they help to solve the problem in Nigeria? So in which case you do 2-country study, or you do 3-country study, as the case may be. That is a way of scaling up the activities of TETFund, for instance. But everybody will attribute the success of this project to TETFund, because TETFund is the initiator in a way. Even if the Research and Development Foundation will eventually stand on its own, everybody will trace the route to what TETFund has started.
All the other 12 thematic groups are founded on education, from energy to infrastructure, defense, governance, and all the rest. It begins from education. And from all what they are doing, all of this will end up, a lot of it will end up in curriculum reviews and the way, paradigm shifts in the way we have been doing things. It will translate into upgrading our laboratories and the universities. It will translate into a new orientation of how lecturers and teachers, technologists, and all people who are working in the university, the stakeholders there, go about their duties. As it is now, part of what you see in the field and part of the problems we are complaining about in virtually all the areas, you can trace them to the quality and type of education that we are offering.
The education operators have reached out to science and technology operators, research institute in Ministry of Agri, research institutes in Ministry of Environment. And we've had the support of the Honorable Minister of Education. He inaugurated the Research Development Standing Committee. TETFund, we are thinking of providing, building hostels and so on, migrating to e-learning. These are aspects that we must look where we need the funds. Well, TETFund will play a role. Appropriation funds where necessary to complement it, of course, will be welcome. In the northern part of the country where there is more of consistent sunshine, we want to harvest it for maximum utilization for purposes of generating power for the beneficiary institutions. You want to be sure that your ICT unit, you have the power is there, the laboratories. There are some experimentation that if light goes off for 48 hours, the whole experiment has been messed up. If you don't have regular power supply, that is a problem. But more importantly, like I said, looking at the options of renewable energy.
The Energy Group is working to develop an appropriate framework for the application of R&D findings in the energy sector, with emphasis on renewable energy, especially solar, the power mix, and massive investment in other alternative power sources.
Kano, where the university is located in the upper north part of Nigeria. We have abundance of sunlight. If we talk of renewable energy, you're talking about solar, you're talking about other sources of light, which everything zeroes down to the sun. Energy is key to everything because we have machinery all over. We have industries. Success of our economy depends on what we produce. Now, if the government and particularly TETFund is investing in this direction, I have a strong belief that through the researches we're going to be doing and through this investment, we end up coming up with energy solutions to our problems.
Environmental challenges are very obvious. Bioresources challenges in terms of environmentalism and climate change, my oh my, is a massive area that we need to inject precision scientific inquest to get answers for.
This group is focused on developing an R&D strategy predicated in research and case studies that aim to mitigate the effects of climate change, ensure environmental sustainability, and protect the national ecosystem and biodiversity.
The world is changing. Not the same information that we had 10 years ago that we need to have today. We are in the area of conservation. If we look at plants or animal species, some of them even within the Nigerian context are new species we find when we go to the field. But if you don't go to the field to do this research, you don't even know that they are there. You don't know their names. When we collect them for the first time, we've not seen them before. We have to send them to herbarias. The National Herbaria in Nigeria, which is in Forestry Research Institute. If they have not collected it before, they don't know the name, they have to send it abroad. We have to genotype it. Then we look at the family from which it comes. What part of the plant is useful? What can it be used for? Is it for medicinal purposes? Is it edible purposes? Those are the contents you continue to develop and you use to teach the incoming generation. And then we're also about looking at the ecosystem. There are changes because of climatic change. There are many farmers who lost their crops this year, second crops because the heat came all of a sudden and everything is burnt. So we have to begin to do research, and that is the content.
The objective of this group is to leverage R&D in information and communication technologies to develop the national digital economy, as well as using the emerging technologies as enablers for other sectors of the economy.
If you use your half-life of a full potential to work on things and achieve X amount, if you have double it, you are going to have 2X. That's mathematical. So in economy where they run for 24 hours, you don't expect that economy to be the same size as an economy that runs for 12 hours or 8 hours. So it is through artificial intelligence, technology like that economies that runs on 24 hours. It is critical for us to be looking at that direction if eventually we want to have an economy that will be globally competitive and can run 24 hours, possibly. If Nigeria can run 24 hours for 1 year, I can assure you we are going to double our GDP.
Today's world is quite digitalized. People say it's a global village. So you find that with computational intelligence, people are actually going into the digitalization of knowledge, information, data that will enhance public understanding, will enhance the marketing of skills, that will enhance entrepreneurial knowledge, thereby, by extension, assisting the government, assisting the community, assisting the people.
Positive application of ICT is the key thing now. Is there anything we're doing? In the military, for instance, you tell me, you're talking about laser-guided bombs. Go on and on. Technology has gone so precise. And ICT is one of the main drivers.
The pioneer TETFund Centers of Excellence have been inaugurated and have since commenced work in earnest with takeoff grants of 1 billion naira each provided by TETFund. On the other arm, the RDSC has concluded a nationwide R&D landscaping and status validation visits of about 400 institutions and organizations across 6 geopolitical zones of the country, with emphasis on the congruency of the triple helix model per visitation site. 39 visiting teams were formed, reflecting the industry, academia, and the government at all times. The work of the Centers of Excellence and the RDSC will converge seamlessly, as TETFund has already recorded great successes, practically removing some silos and demolishing some cocoons, impeding the functioning of the triple helix model in Nigeria. And that is the paradigm shift.